My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
Sure is.
And we've got a big one tonight because three episodes. So
count them. 1, 2, 3.
It's a magic number.
It is.
It is a magic number. And we've had 3 completely different episodes. We've had a positive. Mm-hmm. We've had a negative tonight. And we've had whatever the fuck cooking for the Melbourne Demons was. And I don't really know what that was.
It was a balls up. Get it?
It was a balls up.
Well, for the red team it was.
Get it because they play football.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
And the balls go up.
Allegedly. So, there was a lot of talk about cooking. We'll come to it when we talk about that episode a bit more, but there was a lot of talk early on about cooking for elite athletes. And I've looked at the table and no, not really. Not that elite, Melbourne. Not that elite.
You know who would have been a real fucking challenge to cook for?
Yeah.
Sumo wrestlers.
That would have been a challenge.
Get those elite athletes on. Otherwise, it's all just friggin' rabbit food and unmarinated protein.
I think we'll bring back a segment that's a bit of a fan favourite later on, where we'll look just at what the biggest problem was with cooking for the Melbourne Demons Football Club. But we'll start off with Immunity Tuesday.
Immunity.
See, I was about to go a bit older school. Goodbye, Immunity Tuesday.
Oh, God.
What?
All right, do it.
No, it's done now. That's it. I'm not going any further.
I've had some chocolate. I'm a little bit hyperactive.
You've had some chocolate. I'm having some coffee. So it was an egg challenge.
Yeah.
Now, poor Jess from last year must have been sitting at home
rocking in a corner,
having like Nam flashbacks about eggs. Unlike her challenge, you didn't get 6 and then you had to ration them out over the course of 3 cooks.
No.
You could use as many or as few as you wanted.
Yep.
But eggs had to be the hero ingredient.
Oh, funny that.
The hero ingredient.
I would have preferred them to come out on a tray with a bit of Mariah Carey underneath.
So it was really interesting because we had the first of the game cards out again, the second of the game cards out again, and we talked about this on Monday night. And the last couple of nights, you would have been a bit tipsy. Tonight, by the way, smashed. Absolutely smashed after tonight's one. But let's go back into what happened on Tuesday with the immunity challenge. Now, it was eggs. We had a couple of interesting moments.
Yeah.
Tim. Meat Bay. Meat Bay.
Yes.
Now, look, Meat Bay, you've won the hearts and groins of much of Australia.
And meat loins.
And meat loins, indeed, of much of Australia.
Yes.
But fish sauce caramel.
Well, it's a play on the fish custard from last week, isn't it, really?
I've always wanted to try fish sauce caramel. Said nobody but Tim ever.
Except he might have been cooking for the 11th Doctor. You don't know. He might have regenerated into Matt Preston.
Now, I kind of get, though,
which is why he's not there for the past couple of nights.
That actually explains it, because we were going to ask, where's Matt? That might actually explain a few things, though, because I actually think if you're going to do something like that, the immunity challenge is probably your moment. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going home.
No.
Right? You're not going to get into eliminate. You're not going to win a chance at immunity, but we all know how those challenges go. So you're probably not going to win immunity. So he's probably going, I'm going to do something weird. Because if it happens to work, I look like a genius.
And if it doesn't, well...
Yeah, if it doesn't, I go up to the gantry and heckle while Chloe cooks. We'll come back to that in a moment. It didn't really work, and they sort of sat him down afterwards and went, look, we love your stuff, Tim. We love that you're creative. Maybe dial it back.
Yeah. This is bordering on Callan territory. And if we remember from last year, Callan, brilliant. Sometimes the flavours just...
And a couple of times they probably should have just said to Callan, look, just give it a minute. Give it a minute. They didn't do that to him. So this year they've learned from last year where, as we said, they needed to give Callan more support last year. Yes. And straight up with Tim, there's no, don't do that again. Just do not.
Leave the custard alone.
Now, the man who was actually on fire up to this point, Sashi! And the man who was on fire up to this point was Sashi. And he set to make this chili sauce that he was going to make, chili mayo sauce. Mm-hmm. And then he was going to do like a boiled egg with his chili mayo sauce and get the runny yolk, and it was great. Yeah. It was fantastic. Now, in an egg challenge, there are many things that you require to make an egg challenge work.
An
egg would be handy.
Yeah.
Cooked
egg, well peeled egg.
You know what you need to do if you're going to boil an egg?
Peel it.
Well, first of all, you know what you got to do?
Boil it.
Turn the water on.
Oh, yes.
What did he not do until 12 minutes to go?
Oh, fuck it. Who
Turn the
needs to
water
boil
on.
shit?
And Matt Preston walked over and went, you got 12 minutes left. Where's your water? And Sashi said, I knew I forgot something. It's like, it's an egg challenge. More importantly, we talked about the gantry last episode.
Yes.
And that their banter wasn't quite there. Where was the gantry yelling down at him, oi, turn your pan on?
Hey, Sashi, H2OD, you might have forgotten something. Like, if they can't say it directly, at least you can,
Hint at him.
hint at him.
Gee.
Start singing the theme to water sports.
do 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 do. You could have done that. You could have gone, is it just me or is it boiling in here?
Or is it not boiling? Is it the opposite to boiling?
I was talking to you last night and we were just talking about the football, and you know what I said to you about what they've got to do in that final third of the field? Put the fucking egg in the water. Something subtle like that.
I like my eggs hard boiled.
Hard boiled.
With boiling water.
Or even slightly boiled, Sashi. So he then got to the point where he served up fried egg with sauce.
My mum's specialty. It's been a long day. Didn't know what to do for dinner, so away it was. Fried egg on toast.
This is MasterChef again, and fried egg with sauce.
Well, it was fancy sauce.
It was like, at least you plated something. Well done, Sashi, on that one.
And it wasn't anything writing on it, just immunity. So.
And we like Kristen. We really like Kristen.
Oh,
but
yeah.
her problem was, as the judges said to her, you can do a little bit less.
She's turning out to be the Flora.
She's doing, for those who watched Great British Bake Off a couple of series ago, Flora, who had to make a cake, so started off by making macarons to go around the outside, then twirl.
Yeah, a few different types of scones.
Then some shoe buns around the outside of that.
And then she'd remember...
About 15 minutes to go, oh, that's right, a sponge.
Do a cake.
And there were a couple of times where Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood just looked and went, Flora, none of this is the challenge.
No.
And you haven't made the bit that is yet, so hurry that up. I'm a bit worried that that's going to be her.
Hopefully she'll rein it in. She's just a bit excited, wants to show everything she's got.
Well, they said it was good, but
yes,
needed to back it up. So
back it up, back it
Chloe,
up, back it up. Yes,
Chloe did a really good job with hers.
Yep. Cooked that egg perfectly.
It was probably it was the best one. It was the best one there. She deserved to go through to the challenge.
Gooed over.
So,
and the soba.
Chloe
and
the noodles
bacon.
and the noodles.
The bacon.
The bacon.
Bacon. She'd watched Robert. But she didn't panic. She just knew.
She didn't panic and throw bacon at it. She just threw bacon at it because, life.
Yeah.
And those soba noodles. And, I mean, my only thing was, were they judging the noodles or were they judging the egg? But, it was the best dish. So, but what we learned was that she's really good at making noodles. Now, this brought us into the challenge. So, my first problem was that Gary starts talking her up and talking about how she's on fire. It was the first thing she'd won. And she'd been in the upper middle of the pack, but she hadn't been on fire. That would have been Sashi. But
yeah.
And it's like, she's on fire. Well, she's on a hot streak. You all better watch out. She's on a hot streak. I'm like, not really.
Maybe what it was is that behind the scenes she actually was on fire and they didn't have anything that they could show except Gary going, oh, Chloe, she's on fire.
You know what they could have done?
What?
They could have used the water in Sashi's pan because it hadn't boiled.
To douse her. They probably did. That was happening behind the scenes. They didn't have anything else they could show, so they just had to show Gary say Chloe's on fire. So tie it all together.
So the challenge became, please, everybody in the MasterChef kitchen, will you pretend to know? And then the chef comes in and he's young chef of the year like they always are, and he's Peter Gilmore's right hand.
Which did... beg the question, what is a left-hand man?
Yeah, what is the left hand?
Is that the person who's just, incompetent? Like, the right-hand man knows what they're doing. The left-hand man is kind of, just fumbling around.
Yeah, I mean...
Do they do all the underhanded stuff? The right-hand man's like, don't worry, I'll look after you legally. And the left-hand man's like, all right, I'm going to go out and assassinate your enemy. Like, what... What is a left hand?
It's an important thing to know. You need to understand what exactly the right or the left-hand man does.
And then does that mean that there's like a right and a left hand, like a right and left-footed person?
There must be. Peter Gilmore doesn't actually have any limbs.
Is there an
what we've learned is Peter Gilmore, no limbs.
What
just
about
people?
What about the
He's Voltron.
He's Voltron.
Peter Gilmore is Voltron. We've just sorted it out. Yes. Peter Gilmore's Voltron.
Yeah,
right?
You put him all together and he produces
you put a person on his right arm, a person on his left.
And he just shoots out the snow eggs.
Peter Gilmore firing snow eggs. So now this challenge was noticeable for one major theme, and look, everyone at home noticed it. I don't know if Chloe intended us all to notice it as much as we did, and it's probably editing, but it was a bit of a love story going on. Just a love story. It does need some sexy sax, man.
If you get some of those images, slow them down, and put a bit of sexy sax behind it. It's like Shannon and Chloe. A love story.
All she wanted was to work with Shannon Bennett. And then it became this, like, every time she did something, like when they were putting the ingredients together, she had to pick 10 ingredients. And when they're putting the ingredients together, it looked like she was just spending the first 5 to 6 minutes just staring lovingly into Shannon Bennett's eyes.
What do you think, Shannon?
And, like, Shannon Bennett's looking at her going...
grab some bananas.
And Shannon's looking at her going, you're going to pick some ingredients here? And she's looking at him like, yeah. Sure. And, of course, the one thing she needed...
What are you doing to those strawberries, Chloe?
The one thing she needed, of course, was a lime to add some citrus to balance it out.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things she didn't pick. It was still over on the bench, and Shannon's like, you can't go get that now.
Well...
You can't go get that now. So she made these tortellini that looked really good.
Ravioli,
sorry.
Yep.
One of them. You know, it's a folded pasta. It's like Mexican food. You know, Mexican food, enchiladas, you know, fajitas, burritos. It's how you fold the tortilla. It's the same thing. So she made pasta.
The Mexican people listening to this podcast are just screaming into the mic.
But what they need to remember, of course, is that I love all of their food. With a legitimately fiery passion. And so she made her pasta, and it was good, and it was well made, and it was fairly classy made. And then you look on the other side, and there's a prawn's head custard. And you're just like, I wonder if they can tell which one of these two is the professional and which one of these is just a really good home cook.
Now, this is where I want to bring in, okay? When, like, the home chefs do a bit of a fish mixed with custard thing, not so good. Professional does it, boom. You know, you get, like, a prawn head custard.
So she's getting 8s and everyone's going, oh, this is really good. And we're just sitting there going, he getting 9s. And sure enough... 9. There we go. Done. Sorted. So Chloe doesn't win, but she does win her way into the early part of Shannon Bennett's heart.
Yeah, but she put up beautiful ravioli. It's just like she's very good at the basics, and I'm interested and really excited to see where she goes because she's got the good technique already. She's got you know what I mean, like some really interesting flavours. And her experience, like with the Ghanaian foods that she's had, and now she's, you know, whacking out these soba noodles like they're going out of fashion. And she uses bacon and everything. Like,
that's a plus.
That is
bacon and everything is a plus.
So
and that took
she's one to watch.
And that took us into Wednesday. And Wednesday, of course, is the team challenge. Now, what I find interesting about the team challenge...
And I came up with the whole team idea.
Indeed. Now, what I find interesting about the team challenge early on is for about the first month, it makes no sense because everybody's in. So it's just like everybody, it's really cluttered. And you had the two teams divided up, obviously, and on one side you had...
Red team's like, yep, we know what we're doing.
You had organisation. You had focus. You had structure.
Yes.
On the other side, you had Sashi.
Total fucking chaos. You know why? Because Loki was in his team, and he is the god of chaos.
But however, what did we learn last night about that team? Always trust the Loki.
Yes.
Always trust the Loki. So, apparently you must always trust the Loki.
Oh, yeah, he knows his sources.
Apparently he does. So it was an interesting challenge. For a start, you had the Melbourne Football Club, and they were serving a function, and, you know, they were making all these comments about professional footballers and great footballers and high-end sports people and people who like AFL were going, yeah, it's Melbourne, not quite. And then they had their captain there to, I don't know what he was there to do. He was supposed to be the extra judge because Matt was away. Now let's work out.
But there was the woman too, and I'm sure she was an AFLW. I wanted them to be called WAFL because then you can call them waffles. And everyone loves waffles.
So, but what was really interesting about this was...
Yes.
There was no Matt Preston.
Oh, yes.
He was missing for 2 nights in a row. I wonder if he was away preparing for Nigella. Because we know that Matt and Nigella sort of... Yeah. Their interplay is legendary.
Well, she's single now, isn't she? She's,
Charles Saatchi is certainly doing other things right now. Cocaine.
So possibly. Not hitting Nigella.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite possibly. He's hanging out with Nige.
Now, they had to make... One team got meat and one team got fish.
And lo and behold, the meat bay...
Meat bay, I don't know. And he picked... I don't know, was it... Meat. He picked meat, and they went like we wouldn't have picked that. So Sashi got the fish. Sorry, Sashi got the fish. Now Tim's team is organised. They all laid out what they were going to do. They sorted the whole thing out.
It really
quickly.
did seem like someone suggested something, and they've all gone yes, and someone else just said yes. It was like,
and they rushed off and started.
Happiest bunch of campers.
They rushed off and started. And you looked at Sashi's team, and Sashi is just standing in the background looking while they are all just yelling over each other and arguing, and they really didn't have much of a clue. But here's the thing. It all came down to, and I will maintain, it came down to the fact that unbeknownst to anybody on the meat team, the rolls of beef they'd been given had a massive lump of fat through the middle.
Yeah, which... is
not their fault. Not their fault. I mean, you should probably check that.
Yeah.
But the massive rolls of beef that they were given had a large lump of fat through the middle. So when they went to slice it thinly to wrap it around as they were going to do the celery they were going to use, you couldn't do it. Now, first of all, I think it would have been dumb anyway because the idea of pickled celery and beef just doesn't really appeal to me, is it?
No, it just... And the thing is as well is... Okay, when you have a canapé, you want it to kind of be a little mini piece of artwork and just a little pop in the face of something colourful. Meat's grey and kind of red.
Yeah.
If it's kind of underneath something or, I don't know, with something a bit more colourful.
And like a little bit of shaved beef on a toothpick wrapped around a tiny piece of celery. I don't know about you, but I'm not really hanging out for it.
No.
It's not really doing it for me. So they sort of lost that idea anyway, and then apparently the balsamic set it all off anyway really badly. Then they cubed it, which basically made Gary cry.
They got a bit dicey. It got a bit dicey for
like Gary and George were looking at it going, that was a lovely side of beef. Now it's just in cube form. It was like that episode of The Simpsons. You have 10 minutes to move your cube. You have 5 minutes to move your cube. Your car has now been crushed into a cube. But it was, it looked weird. It looked awkward to eat.
Yeah.
The other side made those little tartlets, which were amazing, and everyone loved those. So suddenly Sashi's teams got the advantage out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Led us to the main course. Now they got lamb for the main course.
And wow, I've never seen someone French bone so quickly. Like
that was incredible.
It's like when we've seen lamb rack when people are Frenching stuff in other challenges, I'm sure there's been a bit of like, oh my gosh, I don't think they're gonna, like, this is taking too long, blah blah blah. Not meat base, just like boom 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 boom, Frenched.
Yeah, like he was amazingly fast at putting that together and getting all of that sorted out. He did a really strong job of Frenching those bones, and it's almost like that's what he does.
Yeah. And then we saw was Chloe coming in to do the salmon, like wanting to sous vide the salmon. Now, one thing is you need to sous vide 100 pieces of salmon. Mm-hmm. Do you have enough gadgets or whatever to actually sous vide 100 pieces of salmon?
No.
Also, they had one person working on the salmon and pulling out the bones and stuff. I don't know if that's enough people.
They didn't bother to... Well, the thing was they didn't bother to then, like, watch what they were doing, which became a bigger problem later on because when they went back over to check it,
Yeah.
And it was way overcooked.
Oh.
Which led me to my quote of the night.
Yes.
So George turns around, and he's being colloquial, of course, but he turns around and goes, look, Sashi, if you don't take that out now, if you don't take that salmon out now, if you cook that too far, it's cactus. And my mind was blown.
You cooked salmon.
Here am I trying to work out how I can develop a cactus.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is just overcook some salmon.
And it turns into cactus.
Cactus, instantly. Right? Amazing. I didn't know this. Now I do. Mind blown. This is why George Columbaris can get away without paying people. It's for knowledge like that.
He's like Jesus, you know. Jesus turned water into wine. George turned salmon into cactus.
Now,
it's not quite as helpful at a dinner party, but still a neat trick.
They managed to flake it and save it with the noodles, and it was okay. It was sort of tired going into the dessert. Now, the dessert was... Yeah. So
what we know is blobs in crescents shapes are the thing.
The thing this year is a crescent moon.
Yeah. Now we need to pop that into a game card. It's like a deconstructed dessert.
Deconstructed blank needs to go into a game card.
But crescent dessert.
Crescent dessert, definitely. So let's talk about it. We'll start with Kirsten. Again, we love her.
Love her.
She's amazing.
She is.
That was not a cheesecake.
Ah.
If I ordered a cheesecake and a couple of blobs of mousse turned up with a little bit of like a crumb that vaguely resembled a crumb you might find on a cheesecake.
Disappointed.
And like there's lots of negative space. I'm over the negative space, guys. Right? How often I love that they've all watched the show, so they've learned about the words negative space on a plate.
Yeah.
But enough.
That's got to go into the next card too, negative space.
Because Reese took it a step further. Reese's dessert was basically an empty plate with quinoa in the join. That is basically what he served.
It looks like someone was served quinoa and was trying to just move it around the plate so their mum thought they'd eaten some of it.
See, what I thought it was that gap was where the dessert was supposed to go. What he'd done is like laid the quinoa around the outside, and there was supposed to be like this big dessert in the middle of the plate. No, apparently there wasn't, just the quinoa. No. And what they'd done was gone and found a sieve because they needed to extract quinoa from barley. This really happened. That's a real sentence. If you watched the show last night...
I was quite excited about finding the right sieve.
Yeah, and I've never seen anyone so excited to find a sieve in my life as Jenny. We got the right one! And it's like... Okay, your life has come down to sieving quinoa from barley because you may have burnt the barley.
Yeah.
Reevaluate life decisions.
Now, when they were judging it, what I liked is that George took over the Matt Preston line of what I loved about that dish was...
Go for this is shit. And I liked that at the end when the team that everyone expected to win lost. They cut back to Reese in the voiceovers, and Reese just looks at the barrel of the camera and goes, I can't help but think that my dessert is what got us into elimination. And the answer was yes.
I'm just waiting
It really was, Reese. It really was.
Yeah, I was waiting for Loki to produce the Tesseract. I cursed Reese. I made him think that quinoa.
So this brought us into tonight. So the elimination, and it's again one of those big eliminations where everybody's a star for a bit of a night. So,
some people that just weren't featured, like Lisa, barely saw her.
It was good to see some people. It was good to not see some people.
Yeah, because we knew they were safe.
Joe, I'm looking at you.
You were safe.
It was really nice to not see you. This is what we're trying to sort of explain to people. This early on in the series.
It's safe.
You don't want to be noticed.
No.
They shouldn't know you're in the kitchen.
No.
Right? You should all be Trent.
This...
Right? Not to the extent that Trent went with it, in terms of like still being there 4 or 5 from the end and nobody noticing, but you should all be Trents. Right? In a world full of people stepping out of their comfort zone and trying to do wacky and zany things.
Be a Trent.
Be a Trent, right? Be a Trent. So the people who were a Trent learned, keep your head down, don't do anything stupid, don't do anything big, don't do anything brash. You know what? Don't do anything that good.
Just do what you
Just do something. So Joe did something. Wasn't good, wasn't bad, was
Dessert.
something.
Mousse.
Right? It was okay. They're like, that's perfectly presentable. That's great. Janine.
Nice cheesecake.
You know, the most we saw of Janine tonight was when George made her jump about 4 miles in the air by yelling in front of her.
That was hilarious. Janine makes George almost tolerable, and I like that.
It is nice to see.
Yeah.
So it was really grandmother's a go-go tonight. Now producers.
Oh my God.
We get it. Everybody in that kitchen had somebody who was old who once cooked something near them, around them, with them, towards them.
I was going to sneeze.
So, bless you. You're allergic to Nonna stories.
I am. My eyes are starting to water too. Now, what it is, it's not the producer's fault. They can't help the gender inequality and the gender role models of yesteryear. This is the thing. This is like a legacy of women being stuck in the kitchen and things being labelled men's work and women's work. You know, like chefs are men who go off and get paid to create food, whereas women were, you know, basically stuck in the kitchen. There's a great documentary by the BBC. Now, I'm on a bit of a rant here, which basically showed how every time there were improvements in the kitchen, it freed up women further and further. So thank you for that. I'm glad I'm not stuck in the kitchen. But this is the thing, like my grandmother, she was not a normal, like, you know, the stereotypical woman. She was a fossicker. I remember her crystal collection. I remember her lighting up cigarettes, which is probably the closest she came to cooking. I remember her having wheat bix. That was probably the closest to the food prep I saw. And she was a great gardener. Wasn't a cook. And this is the thing, is like, as generations progress, I think we'll see more and more people being inspired by different people in their family cooking.
I think so.
Or their employed servant.
Or their indentured servant. Now, see, I don't have that story. I've mentioned this story briefly before to people, but it's worth repeating for those who are new to the podcast and have never heard it. My grandmother on my father's side apparently was a wonderful cook, I've been told. We once went to a dinner at her house.
Yes!
Now, this is one of the things that possibly inspired me to cook more, because I looked at that and went, oh, God, no. We went out to the kitchen for the dining room for dinner. It was spaghetti bolognese. It turned up on the table. There were relatives at the time who were over from New Zealand who looked at the plate and went, I don't know what that is. And I went, I do. I grabbed some garlic bread and left the table. Now, what it was what she had done is she'd got the mince and just in a lump, you didn't know this story was coming, in a lump had thrown it in the pan and like browned the outside, but hadn't browned it, she'd grayed it, right? So it was grey. Then what she'd done is taken a jumbo, not a normal can, one of those big jumbo...
Because you're feeding a family.
One of those jumbo cans of spaghetti. You know, the tinned stuff.
Was it SPC?
It was. And she'd taken a tin of SPC spaghetti, opened the can, poured it into the grey lump, and stirred it.
Oh, nice.
And then put it on the table for everyone to enjoy. And there it was, what looked like a sort of steamed brain with like yellowy reddish worms on it. It was
on top of spaghetti.
It was
covered in grey.
I've never quite recovered.
Your grandma made meatballs
before she passed away. It was, yeah, I've never quite got over that, and I'd like to sort of claim that that's the reason why I can cook, because I just saw that and went, I'm never doing that.
See, I see your spaghetti story and I raise you my mother.
Okay, this is again a legendary washing up story, but it has to be told.
It has to be told. This is the reason that inspired me to cook, and this is what I'd be on MasterChef. Oh, you're cooking something inspired by your mum? Yep, because she couldn't fucking cook. Okay, so she's blown up a chicken. She set a couple on fire. I shit you not. So she had like a whole chicken in like a casserole dish. The casserole dish got a bit of moisture on it and sealed. It was in the oven and went boom because the air basically like expanded and it had nowhere to go. couple of them been on fire. Then there was the time she decided to, like, cook fancy for my new brother-in-law. Decided to cook a duck. Never cooked a duck before. This is the days before you could look up, taste.com.au and find out how long you had to cook a duck. Because on it went to the table looking all pretty and stuff, and then you cut into it, it looked like you were murdering Daffy. And every Wednesday night was bolognese night.
And so a couple of things had to happen. First of all, I had to rehabilitate with regards to spaghetti.
Bolognese.
And secondly, I then had to one night make duck.
To show that it wasn't.
To show that you can make a really nice crispy skin duck that doesn't involve killing Daffy.
Yes, so
it's a lot of food rehabilitation that's been going on.
Yeah, so my passion for cooking came from the fact it was like cook or die. It's like
so not exactly the grandmother stories they would have been hoping for. I mean, I wanted to see someone just mess with them and turn around and go, what inspired you to cook? Well, I'm cooking the recipe that I used to kill my grandmother. And I'm just waiting for them to go, oh, that's love. What?
I've come from a very proud German heritage, and this is the food that my grandfather cooked for Hitler.
This is what we made once we all went to South America. No, we did not go to Ballarat. So we had a lot of grandmother stories tonight, probably too many grandmother stories in all honesty.
Again, I think it's the product of our
but it's not even about. It wasn't even about gender inequality stuff. It was just about just enough.
A lot of
we get it. Like you come up with another family member, an aunt, an uncle, a nephew,
a second cousin thrice removed.
Exactly, that would have been a better story. When Janine did her thrice baked cheesecake, it could have been from a second cousin thrice removed.
Oh my god, my second cousin thrice removed thrice cooked cheesecake.
Think about the maths involved. Think about the complex equations that are going on here.
Not twice, but thrice.
Not once, not twice, but thrice. So what we had was, I've got to admit, I've had a bit of an issue with Reese, and it's not Reese's fault. It's just, some people don't naturally present on TV, and it takes a while to warm up, and you can see Reese is not used to this. And he's been building up to it. Yep. But what I did appreciate about Reese tonight was everyone was giving their grandmother stories and lots of crying and lots of sob stories and, look, legitimate stories. We're not making fun of the stories, but it just got to be too much. Like Gina talking about the making pasta and her grandfather making the stool so she could get up and make the pasta. And it was, emotional story, but it was about the fifth one in a row. Then Reese gets on. Talks about his grandmother's recipes for lamingtons, and we'll talk about lamingtons a bit more shortly. But then turns around and just goes, oh, she's watching at home tonight. Hopefully I'm not disappointing her. And I loved it, because it wasn't the normal sob story of she's gone now and I'm cooking for her because she's watching over me. He's like, no, she's actually watching over me at home right now on TV. Like, she's probably sitting back, got a drink in hand, watching me going, that's not my lamingtons, Reese. That's not how you make a lamington.
Glass of sherry.
Because what Reese made wasn't a fucking lamington. Now, deconstructed food. To quote Sean McAuliffe from the short-lived McAuliffe Tonight on Channel 9, into the bin. Because...
No, go rant.
I'm over deconstructed food. Right? If you want to make a lamington, here's a crazy notion. Make the fucking lamington. Right? My grandmother's at home watching me make something as an ode to her lamington. What are you making? Not a lamington. Bits and pieces of lamington. What you should have done was make the lamington, then put a little explosive inside it. Light the explosive and have it go bang. That's a deconstructed lamington. Why? Because you constructed it first.
See, I don't look at that as being a deconstructed lamington, because this would be my idea of a deconstructed lamington. You have little squares of sponge cake.
Yep.
And then you'd have the tub of chocolate sauce, and then you'd have the little bowl of desiccated coconut
and
on
roll
the
it in yourself.
To roll it in yourself. That's a deconstructed lamington.
Yeah, but there was no building. Like, it wasn't a built lamington. It's element of lamington. It wasn't actually deconstructed. It's just
lamington flavoured.
Lamington light. Lamington taste. No lamington. So that was interesting.
Yeah, but at least he put up something that was tasty and had stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what was really interesting
was Aldo's wobbling.
Aldo's salted coconut panna cotta. I got to admit, I had no expectation of that working.
No, I'm glad it did because he's so lovely to watch.
Aldo's so much fun.
He's a joy.
He is an absolute joy to watch.
I'd like to think he's Francesco Gabbani's second cousin twice removed.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Adele's corn and jalapeno fritters. Look, I like them.
I was championing those so hard when she said what she was making. I'm like, yes.
I mean, I know she almost went home, but I was really happy that she made those and they looked good.
Yep.
I would have quite happily eaten them.
Look, you know me. I like my things a little bit dense. You like my pancakes.
You like your pancakes.
A little bit dense.
You like your pancakes to be building material?
Dense. And look, you know, okay, it needed a bit more chili in it. Just fucking whack some sriracha on top.
Well, I mean, she was talking about the idea that when she was growing up, you know, she accidentally ate the chili.
We've all done that. My older sister's was a spoon of cocoa powder thinking it was Milo.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a mistake. The
funniest one was my mum, the typical avocado wasabi mix-up.
And knowing your mum, that would have been hilarious.
Yes.
Janine made a not once, not twice, but thrice cooked cheesecake, which was great because George walks over and goes, "You done?" And she goes, "No, it's in the blast chiller."
Yeah.
Like, just looks at George, is like, "Go away, George."
I can tolerate George when he's interacting with Janine.
They need a sitcom.
I don't know what it is. She has this aura of niceness and it's rubbing off onto George.
Yeah, like, I mean, he actually genuinely seemed concerned about the fact that he'd scared the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Brendan made yum cha, so, you know.
Oh, yes.
Hey, hero.
Yeah, but he made that horseradish cake, which I'd really like to try now.
Well, there you go.
Delish. And a bit chewy, which, you know, I like.
And then we get to the last two. Now, even the Masterchef account is ready for this. The Masterchef Twitter account knows this is coming.
Turn around. Look at what you see.
You know what I saw, Kristie? You know what I saw?
What did you see, Chris?
Matcha.
Oh, really? I didn't notice.
Matcha.
You've never mentioned that tonight. Here I was watching Masterchef. No mention of matcha. Go on. Go on, Chris. Get it out so I don't have to hear it later.
It is officially done. It is over. We don't need it in our lives. We don't need it in kitchens. It looks like someone has blended Kermit. And especially tonight when it was being used in, and I hasten to call it a cake.
You know what it looks like tonight? If you've ever had to empty an ileostomy, that's kind of what comes out.
Yeah, well, I was going to say something along the lines of a full nappy. But because it split and it sort of didn't settle and it was lumpy and it looked like someone was pureeing frog. And Jenny's like, I can't understand why it didn't work. And then she's put the paper in there, so it's got paper on it too, and it's just gelatinous and green and matcha-rific. And
it was so marchy. So marchy that the what's it called? The village people had to come up and use it as a prop. Matchy man.
I was trying to pretend it hadn't happened, and they just kept cutting back to it, and they wouldn't give me a rest.
They knew.
And at this point, there are people on Twitter who know my views on matcha, who are all tweeting the account going, "This is going to be good.
No shit.
This is going to be great." Robert from Bake Off last year, who is tweeting to everyone, "Oh, it's one of my favourite things to do is to stir Chris up about matcha. I'll just push and poke and prod this one. You better fucking believe he did, Robert." And by the way,
Thanks, Robert.
Robert did want to add to this rant, however.
No.
Because Robert's rant is panna cotta.
Oh, is it? He's over the panna cotta?
Is over panna cotta. I think we might need a bit of a panna cotta / matcha embargo.
No.
I think we need to petition CBS. I think CBS needs to pull the funding. Every time someone makes matcha, they remove the funding so that George Columbaris is one day off the set.
Look, if we need to make an Australian nuclear program, my recommendation is that someone just make a matcha uzu panna cotta.
So what happens is we change it from...
watch Chris go nuclear.
So what you're saying is we change it from yellow cake to green cake?
Yes.
Exactly what you were saying. Now...
You've gone red.
The world...
You've gone red from the neck
Now,
up.
the world that we
Just
live
breathe.
in, the world that we live in, however, is a world where I can utter the following sentence.
Okay.
So the matcha cake is going to be rescued by the pig's trotter salad.
I do not like this because I love Denise. I loved her cooking. I love her experience. I was confused as fuck about her.
I love her accents.
Yeah.
Her accents.
She's a graduate from the Kristie Stanford
Voiceover
Voiceover
Academy. If you've ever heard a Kristie impression, you can't pick the country.
Essentially, I'm doing a Denise right now.
That is the best Latvian I've ever heard. So, what? Look, first we have to start with the accents.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody on Twitter could remotely place the accent, and again, that wasn't a shot at Denise. It was just thoroughly confusing because every time she came on screen, there was a different one.
It's because when I first heard her, she sounded
What a range!
Perfectly Scottish, and the next time I heard her, she sounded like she was from like the north of England, and the next time she's sounding like she's from another part of England. I'm like, what is going on?
Couldn't work out where it was from.
You think she's a plant?
Possibly. I suggest, especially since she ended up going home, I suggest that maybe somebody cancelled. And they just grabbed an actress and went, well, what accent am I doing? We don't have time. Get in there.
She's
just
like,
pick one.
What's my story? Like, give me a backstory. I don't know. You're a Mexican Scottish woman who's
You're a Mexican Scottish woman from Cambridge who's been to America. Go. Work it out. What accent am I doing? Yes, just
all of them.
Do them. Just go. The producers are like, she goes, is that accent okay? Oh, we'll take it out in post. No,
she wants to show
breathe it in.
She wants to show her range to potential
It's a show reel.
Yes.
The whole show reel is just that one set of accents. But look, we're covering for the sadness, which was the pig's trotter. Now, I've never seen Gary Mann light up like when she said the words pigs and trotter. He was delirious. He just about jumped up and down. It was like he was the happiest fella.
He does like consuming pig, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, Crispy Crackling is his Twitter handle, so you know. But then she pulled out the pig's trotter, and it sort of resembled the mass that I mentioned that my grandmother made a little bit. And you just saw the look on Gary's face like, that's not good. And then when she served the pig's trotter and tried to find...
She was not serving pig's trotter realness.
First of all, as a salad that looked like something you would have got in about 1983 in a Soviet republic.
It does look like, you know how you can do those historical tours of the Cold War?
And you can eat their food.
Hello, my name is Yuri, and I'll be serving the pig's trotter salad. I have decided to go off schedule and put some lettuce on it. We did not have that in Soviet Russia.
It is more like cabbage, but what you do.
Yeah.
So it did not look remotely... It actually looked like... If I had to describe it, it looked like a rotten lettuce field.
No. Tell me what you really think.
And the bits of pig's trotter resembled like grubs and mites that had been eating at it. It's actually, and again, love it dearly, but it's
not your finest work.
It looked horrible. It looked like mites and grubs were eating the lettuce on the plate. And I think maybe she started with a big bowl of lettuce.
Yeah.
And she was just down to like that half lettuce leaf that was left because the grubs had eaten the rest of it. Yeah. And I've never actually seen George Columbaris go to eat something, and because it's George, so no one really feels sympathy. But I sat there and went,
no,
I wouldn't eat that. I wouldn't put that in my mouth. I wouldn't touch it. George, don't eat it.
Just get that eraser from the end of your pencil. Have a chew on that.
And I like the way they tried to build the tension up with the judging, and they went, your matcha cake was matcha, and that's a problem because it was matcha. And what was what you were saying about if I don't put this in now, I'll have nothing. And I'm like, but if you put something in, it's a matcha cake. But on the other hand, then they looked at Denise and went, it was rubbery and flavourless and horrible and nasty, and I'm sure we're seeing like 10 right now, and I'm going to need antibiotics. I wonder who's going home.
Yeah. And it's so disappointing.
I think she had a lot more.
Yeah, and that dish, it sounds like something that maybe they'd cook all day and then it would be just served up home style, you know, in a bowl and whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, and we talk about this with Bake Off too, time it.
Yeah.
If you've only got X amount of time, like 75 minutes, don't do a pig's trotter.
Yeah, just discard your bad ideas or the ideas that are not going to work. Yeah, you need to test yourself and stuff, but in this situation and at this timing, it's your second week, just...
Think back to Tim with the onion broth.
Yep.
You know, as he said, what he learned very early on was if an element doesn't work, don't push ahead.
No.
Change it.
Yep.
So she could have changed it and come up with something else on the fly and just sort of gone, I was inspired by another story. Just come up with another story. It was literally, give us a story as to why you're cooking what you're cooking.
You know, on Tim, right? You know what I liked tonight? His fried chicken looks like the kind of fried chicken you would make at home. You know how everyone's like on the things that all look like golden and perfect?
No.
He's like had that slightly overdone cook.
Which meant that everyone up on the gantry was yelling down at him, throw it up here.
Yeah.
Throw me the chicken.
Throw me the chicken.
So that is the end of this week. And we will have a couple of things. First of all, we'll have a new game card on Sunday night for the start of
Nigella Week.
Nigella Week, one of our favourite weeks.
Oh, we've got to get the Nigella innuendo there.
Oh boy, there will definitely be lots of Nigella innuendos.
She doesn't go full Nigella when she's on Masterchef though. There's not the, this little wibbles and
a little banter back and forward though with Preston.
Slapping on the meat.
Her and Preston get into it a little bit, which is fun. It's fun to watch. And of course last year when she yelled at Columbaris for licking the knife. Which was great. Anyone who yells at Columbaris, friend of mine. So this week we have 3 again, but we've gone back to the actual schedule now. So it's going to be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Yes.
That is going to be the schedule for this week.
Yeah.
So up until then, I'm still Chris.
I'm still Kristie.
We will catch you all later on.
Ciao.